Hello everybody. It's a great day for some programming. Today I want to talk about methods. Specifically, I want to talk more about methods. This lecture comes from my book C# for Artists, 2nd edition, available at Pulp Free Press. So, when you create a method, generally you want to pass parameters to it. Not always, right? But, sometimes you do. In order to get, pass an argument into the body of the method so that you can perform some type of work. Now, you need to be aware of exactly how that passing takes place behind the scenes, okay, because the behavior is slightly different, right, or actually largely different, depending on if you pass a value parameter or a reference parameter. Now, underneath the covers, everything actually works the same, but because you're passing in a value or a structure versus a value type, which is a structure, versus a reference type, which is a class, okay, then you get different behavior simply because of those different types, okay. But underneath the covers, it's value, it's passed by value. So you'll hear terms like, how to pass an argument to a method, pass by value or pass by reference, okay? So the default variable passing mode or argument passing mode is pass by value, all right? So when you define a method, okay, so here I have an example, public void sum method, and it has an integer parameter and an object parameter, okay? The int is a value type and the object is a reference type, okay? But when you actually pass in arguments, you pass in an integer argument for the first parameter and an object, whatever type of object it is. When the method call takes place, copies of those arguments are made and assigned to the parameters, okay? So, for example, let's take a look at a diagram here, right? Picture's worth a million words, really. So let's say I had a field in my class, an integer field, and an object reference field, which pointed to some object, and I'm up here in the upper left corner of this diagram. Let me just see if I can't select it. Oop, I'm selecting everything. Right there, that piece of the diagram. So follow the arrow down this way. When I actually call the method, okay, the int field value, and I'm right here now, is assigned to the integer parameter of the method, okay? So the value that's contained in the integer field is copied to the integer parameter, and this integer parameter is of local scope to the body of that method. The same thing, I'm doing the same thing. I'm copying the value contained within the reference, okay, to the object reference parameter in the method. So I'm just copying the value of that reference, okay? But because this reference points to this object, whenever I copy this reference, right, into this parameter, this reference parameter, it will point to the same object. So after or during the lifetime of the method, I have a complete different copy, right, of my integer parameter, and any changes I make to that integer parameter will only affect the local copy, right? It won't affect the field, all right? Well, when you think about it, the same thing happens, okay? If I act upon what this reference points to, in other words, if I access this object via the parameter, object reference parameter inside the body of the method, I'm going to affect the object that it points to, which is the same object that the field reference points to. So both of these object references are pointing to the same object during the lifetime of that method call. All right, and then when I return from that method call, my original value in my integer field is still intact, and the object reference field still points to the same object. Okay. And if during the lifetime of this method I used this reference, the parameter reference, to access this object and make changes to that object, then those changes will be accessible, right? In other words, I'll be pointing to the same object with this reference. So those changes will be available to me, right, in my class field reference, via the class field reference. That's the default method of passing, right? So let's take a look at this in the code and just make sure we have a handle on this. And then what we'll find is that we can modify these behaviors by using ref and out, or mostly just the ref parameter is what I'll talk about in this video. All right, the ref modifier, I should say. But let's take a look at what happens normally when you make a method call. Okay, let me crank up Notepad++, and I'm just going to create a test class. This was from my last video. Should have cleared that out already. So File, New, and I don't need new, sorry. File, Save As. I'm going to save this as a C# file in my parameter pass by value demo project folder. There we go. So I'm just call a test class .cs. Okay, so using system, and I think I'll use using system text. I think that gives me the Stringbuilder class for this demo. So public class test class. It's not going to extend anything. And I will create, well, let me create two fields. So private int, and I'm going to say int field. Okay. And private object. I could go ahead and do that. Well, let me see here. Let me use Stringbuilder as the object. Stringbuilder. And I'm going to say, I'll go Stringbuilder underscore Stringbuilder. Stringbuilder field reference. All right, just so we know. And I'm just going to put underscore there just to be consistent. All right, int field and Stringbuilder ref field. All right, so I've got two fields, value type, which is my integer, and a reference type, which is my Stringbuilder. And I'm using Stringbuilder so we can see the effects of a change on the Stringbuilder. Now, I'm going to create a method, public void per value, pass by value test. All right, and I'm going to have two parameters. First one's going to be an int, and I'm calling int parameter. And the second one's going to be a Stringbuilder. Right, and I'm going to call that SB parameter, like that. String parameter, Stringbuilder parameter. Open brace. Now, what I'm going to do here is, let's say I have another method. All right. Another method. Let me just set the value here. I'm going to set the value equals without a, well, I'll do it in a constructor. Let me do it in a constructor. So public test class I'm going to create, I'm going to initialize int field to, well, I'll do 5. All right, doesn't really matter. And I'm going to create a new Stringbuilder. Stringbuilder field ref equals new Stringbuilder. And I'm going to actually add, I'm going to say Stringbuilder field ref dot append. Okay. a string. I'll say hello. Space, like that. Hello. So now, all right, so I have a method now in the body of this method down here, this pass by value method. I'm going to take my int parameter that comes in. All right, I have access, right? I have access to my field. But what happens is if you're a novice, and I see novices make this mistake all the time, it would actually, if you name this, right? Which I think I'll do that. Let me create another one. Private, right? Well, let's just go with this. All right. Save. All right. So we have private int field, private string builder underscore string builder field ref, and then we have the constructor, and I'm initializing the integer field to 5, and string builder ref field equals new string builder. So I create a new string builder object. Now when I pass in, okay, well, these parameters are local to this method, all right? The visibility of this parameter, or this name right here, right? It starts from the moment this thing is declared, or right afterwards, right? So in here in the body, essentially. We never mess around with them here. So I can make a change here. I could say int parameter equals 10, right? Or I could print out the value of it, right? Let's do that first. So we'll do console.writeLine, console.writeLine, int print, let's say, I'll do string. Int parameter. Okay. Initially. There we go. Comma. Okay, int parameter. All right. Now, all right, so programming on the fly is always a little bit of a challenge as you're trying to think of what to do as you go. Save the file. All right, now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say console.writeLine. All right, console.writeLine value of, well, this will be, you know, you can't take the value of a reference, right? So I can't print out the address that reference actually points to, but I can print out the value of string builder, right? The string value of it. So value of string builder. Right? I'll say, yeah, string builder reference. Sorry, REFERENCE, like that. Let me make that a string, because that won't fly if I don't. Like this. Oh. All right. Typing is always a challenge. Comma. And then SB. I don't know why I put that underscore there on that one. So SB parameter. SB param dot toString. Just like that. All right. All right. So I've got, so what I'm doing is I'm just typing the, right, value of those two parameters, right? And for a string builder, I imagine this toString is probably redundant. You probably don't even have to put that there. All right, now let's do something to these parameter values, right? So console, actually, let me type, let's do this. So console.writeLine value of int field. And let me put the there we go. All right, the quotes there. Int field 0, like that. Quote, and then underscore int. Okay. Now, okay, so value of int field. So this is what's being passed to the method, right? So the argument that's actually passed. In other words, the value of this field. So console, let me just do this. Command C, Control C, Control E, and let me just change it to Stringbuilder ref underscore Stringbuilder ref dot toString. All right. Okay, so I'm printing out. Let's just compile this and make a. Let's get a main method going. So I'm just going to say down here, public static void main. All right, so test class equals new test class. Now, first thing, well, so I've got now, when I call that constructor, I've initialized my integer field. Okay. Now let's make two. Let's see here. So what I can do is I can, since I'm in my main method, this is the beautiful thing, right, about having the main method in the class. I actually have access to these private fields, right? So I don't have to make anything else up. So I can say test class, I can say TC, this is going to look a little strange, right? I can say TC dot pass by value test, right? And I can say TC underscore int field. Well, it's going to print it out already, so I don't even have to do that. Well, I'm going to pass it in. So TC underscore dot int field, right? So I'm passing in the int field, and I'm passing in the SB per string parameter. So TC dot underscore string parameter ref. All right. So okay, this looks a little goofy. I don't blame you for thinking that. So Control save. Alrighty, let's just review here what's going on. So I have a main method here. I've created my instance of my class, right? Because these are that's a non-static method. These are non-static variables, so I have to have an instance to access them. And then I'm going to say TC, right? Because that's my reference I've just created. Pass by value test. That's my method. And I'm going to pass in these arguments. Even though I'm going to print them out here, what I'm doing is I need to pass them in because I'm going to set these parameters. Okay. So then I should get these messages. And once we get this thing compiled and run and we see the output, we'll modify this method and go from there. And I'll show you what's going on. All right. So CSC star.cs. All right. All right, so CLS and dir. Oh, I got test class execute. Right, test class. All right, so the output is. Let me slide this over just a little bit. I didn't notice that. All right, starting up here. Let me click. All right, the value of int field is 5, right? Which it is. Value of Stringbuilder reference is hello. And then as I pass in, right, the value of the int parameter, which is the parameter for this method, is 5 initially. And the value of the Stringbuilder reference is hello. Okay, because that Stringbuilder reference on the inside, right, I should change the name of those things, right? I'm sorry. That's kind of dorky. I should say SB param of SB param, and this I should have changed this, right? This should be Stringbuilder ref. There we go. That makes it more understandable. Control save, and this should be initially, right? Initially. Now let's recompile this thing. All right, man. and run it again. Test class. Okay, well, that's better. All right, so the value of the int field, right, underscore int field is 5. The value of underscore Stringbuilder ref field reference, right, is initially hello, right? Oh, I'm sorry, is hello. And then the value of int parameter initially, right, when it's passed in is 5, and the value of SB param reference is initially hello. Now we can have a point with which we can depart. All right, so now let's say I make a change to my parameter, right? Int field. I'm sorry, not int field. I'm going to change the int parameter, right? Plus equals 1, right? Now I want to print this out again. I want to actually print both of those. Let's go back here. Control C. So I'm going to print this out. Control V. And I'm going to print this out one more time. Control C. Control V. All right. So value of int parameter after change, right? I'll say value of modified int parameter. Let's do that. Value of modified int parameter and value of int field. So what we'll see is that I've changed, right, the value of my parameter, but I haven't touched the value of my integer field. Okay, Control save. Let's compile this and run it. All right, and run it. So there we go. All right, so come down here to the bottom right. I've got value of modified int parameter is 6. All right, because I added 1 to it, and the value of the int field is 5. So I changed the value of my my value type, right? So I'm modifying it in the body of the method. And as long as I'm just accessing it in the body of the method, I don't change the field's value, right? Well, when you're dealing with a reference type, now let's talk about the string builder. If I modify that, now how would I modify it? SB. Note, I'm using the reference, right? So I'm not actually modifying. I'm working on the copy, but since it's a reference, right, and we don't have pointers, and this is the key difference between like a language like C++, a non-managed language, C++ version, and C#, which is a managed language, which limits your accessibility to pointers. You don't have pointers. You can think of references as pointers in the sense that they point to things, right? They point to objects. But a pointer is a variable. A reference is not a variable in the sense that you can't change what that pointer points to. You can change what it points to, but you can't get in there and modify it. In other words, I can't increment the pointer to point to something else. I can only change it. I have to create a whole new object, right? Or assign it to an existing object. I can't diddle with the value of a pointer, of a reference. I can with a pointer because a pointer is a variable. All right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say SB param, right, dot append. I'm going to add something to the SB param. I'm going to add world, exclamation point, like that. So now what I get is if I do a console dot print, right, if I print that value out, Control C, I'm going to print the value of SB param first, right? And I'm going to say value of modified, right? SB param. I should, anyway. So I'm modifying. When we think of objects, this is the difficulty, right? When you first start out, you're working on a reference, and you can think of that as the object because essentially you access the object via that reference, right? So you're calling methods and properties, right, using the dot operator on that object. This is the dot operator right here. So this variable, right, reference, right, points to some object in memory, and that object supports that interface method right there, append. So I'm going to print out the toString after that. But since it's a reference, right, and I copied the address of the field's reference, right, so this field up here, SB String Builder reference, points, right, that value, that field, contain the same value or memory address, right, where that object is located in memory as this SB param does, okay? So they point to the same object. So now when I print out the value of string builder field, right, we'll see what that is. Control C and Control V. All right, so let's compile this, Control Save, and run it. Clear screen, CSC star.cs, and test class. Okay, now we come down here and we say modified SB param, right? Hello world, right here. Zoop, hello world. And hey, guess what? It also, when I print out the, string builder field ref, it says hello world. That's because both of those references point to the same object, right? That's the difference between, even though you're passing by value for both of those, one is a value type and one's a reference type. You still make copies underneath the covers. And here's the difference, really, the trick. I guess this would be the punchline right here, right? Let's say that I go now here in the body of this method, I make a change. This is where most novices make a mistake, right? They'll say underscore. Oh no, I'm sorry. They'll say SB param equals new string builder, right? And they'll say SB param dot append, okay, some new string value like that. So they'll modify that and append a string to it, okay, and then we'll go ahead and print that out, and we'll see that these two values are now different. Okay, so let's see here. Value of the modified SB param. Well, actually, this is now value of SB param, right? I'm going to say new SB param. Okay, and value of string builder ref, right? Let's compile this and clear the screen and run it. All right, so now what we have is, if the last two values, the value of new SB param equals some new string value. So what this tells us is that thing's pointing to a new object now. Now, here's the danger. So we think we have, naively created a new reference, okay? And we think that since, we're referencing that object, we may be modifying the field as well, right? Because it points to the same object. If you didn't change what that object points to, in other words, if you didn't in the body of this method create a brand new object by saying new string builder, then yes, you would be modifying the same object. But as soon as you create a new object, then internally this SB param points to a new string builder object, and that's the one you're modifying. Then when this method call completes, right, this SB param is only local. This variable, or this local variable, this parameter, it's a parameter, right? This parameter, which has local scope in the body of this method, this parameter goes away when that method call exits. And the net impact of that is that object's just out there in memory, and it will be garbage collected, okay? So if you intend to create something in a method and you intend for it to have lasting effect and you're passing in parameters, you have to be aware of what you're doing, right? So either you use your field values, right, which is really the way that you want to kind of go, but sometimes, you're passing in objects, and if you make changes internally, you got to remember, hey, if I pass in a value or I pass in a reference, that if I modify that value type in here, it stays in here. It doesn't affect the value of the field or the value of the incoming argument, right? If I pass in a reference and I don't change what that reference points to, then I'm actually modifying the same object that reference points to. All right. In later videos, we will talk about the ref parameter and how we can modify this behavior. We can actually change the way a structure or a value type behaves. We can make it behave like a reference, and we can make a reference behave what they call like a handle. In other words, I can change what this field points to if I add ref keywords to these parameters. And that's the subject of another video. So, I hope you enjoyed this. It can be confusing at first, but what you have to do is you just have to keep on practicing, keep reading, keep thinking about it, and keep doing, right? Keep programming. The more you program, the better you get. So, have a good day. And remember, this information is covered in my book, C# for Artists, 2nd edition. Let me give you that shameless plug for the front cover here. And this book is available at pulpfreepress.com. Please get your copy today. Bye.